own concern because those people who are being enticed to go to the United States do not fit the definition of a refugee. A refugee is someone who has to leave their country out of fear of political persecution, religious persecution, or economic persecution. And
that's what the United States says they're undergoing in South Africa. That's why they've opened the door for them.
Yes, and they don't fit that bill. They don't fit that description. And I had a conversation with President Trump on the phone, and he said, what's happening down there? And I said, President, what you've been told by those people who are opposed to transformation back home in South Africa is not true. And I added to him, I said, we were well taught by Nelson Mandela and other iconic leaders like Oliver Tambo on how to continue to build a united nation out of the diverse groupings that we have in South Africa. We're the only country on the continent where the colonizers came to stay, and we have never driven them out of our country. So they are staying, and they're making great progress. It's a fringe grouping that does not have a lot of support, that is anti-transformation and anti-change, that would actually prefer to see South Africa going back to apartheid type of policies. And I said to him, I would never do that. I learned at the feet of Nelson Mandela, and we intend to proceed with the implementation of our constitutional architecture. And I thought in my conversation with him early in the morning at 4 o'clock South African time, he understood that. And I said, I'd like to come and meet him so that we can discuss this matter further. So those people who have fled are not being persecuted. They are not being hounded. They are not being treated badly. And they are leaving ostensibly because they don't want to embrace the changes that are taking place in our country in accordance with our constitution. So we think that the American government has got the wrong end of the stick here, but we'll continue talking to them.
So a face-to-face meeting is coming up. Is Elon Musk invited when you have that face-to-face meeting?
Well, I don't know. They will
This is for the Americans. If you're not an American, feel free to watch, but please try and get it to the Americans. My name is Bianca van Wyk, born in South Africa, live in South Africa. Today you will be welcoming the so-called white Afrikaans refugees. They are there based on an offer made to them, which I must say was informed by disinformation about South Africa. Now, I've seen a lot of takes on who Americans think they are receiving. Okay, you are not getting successful, professional, white, middle-class South Africans that are fleeing South Africa. The people you are getting are the people that believe that there is discrimination against them based on their race. Keep in mind, we live in the most unequal country in the world. We have, for instance, 70% of agricultural land and agricultural holdings are owned by white South Africans. 62 to 68% of top leadership positions in corporate are filled by white males. There is a huge salary disparity between white South Africans and the rest of the population. And there are a number of other indicators which shows you that this story of discrimination based on race is false. Another thing that I wanted to say is that you will get certain so-called refugees that have experienced crime. However, in South Africa, no one is exempt. These people that you are welcoming assume because they're white, they should not experience crime. The people most affected by crime in South Africa happen to be black people that live in poverty. So as you open your doors and welcome people, and you're going to get a lot of information and disinformation from these people, please do keep that in mind. Oh, I also would like to say all the best and good luck to the Americans.
I hate to give this woman any more attention because that's certainly what she wanted out of all of this. But she gave us the perfect example, a brazen confession about what we're up against in this country. I mean, first of all, the fact that you stole a phrase that Black people created for themselves, then co-opted it and twisted it into something that benefits white people, that's a metaphor in itself. The video could stop right here. But whoever the we is in her video, we are tired of blah, 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 who's we? I'm gonna assume it's the same people that want to take us back to a simpler time to make America great again. But what I hear when you say you want to go back to a simpler time is that you are too emotionally stunted and too intellectually lazy to deal with the complexities of a progressive future. You want to go back to a time when there was less access to information so that people couldn't fact check you when you tried to claim your opinion as fact. You want to go back to a time when there was less access to the rest of the world in general. So, you know, when your communities were smaller, where everyone looks and thinks like you, so that it's easier for you to indoctrinate people into your belief system without them questioning it. You want to go back to a time when there wasn't an expectation on you to sit with your emotions and self-reflect and change your behavior accordingly. And if you're too lazy to do that hard work on yourself, you're certainly not going to do it for other people. You're not going to take other people's emotions into account, other people's struggles, other people's histories. It's why this movement is anti-education, anti-queer, anti-immigrant. Anything that challenges their worldview is the enemy. It's lazy and entitled, and that's exactly what you guys call Black people. Interesting. It's called projection, and you could learn that with a very basic understanding of modern psychology, but you don't want to because you don't want to be assaulted with complex information. You want simple solutions to complex problems, and that doesn't exist. So what's the next best thing? Let's just go back to a time when I didn't have to deal with the problem at all. I could just set that problem to the side and pretend like I'm not part of it. It's horrifying and disgusting, and I can't even believe I have to make this video. Jesus fuck.
Y'all, don't worry about these white South Africans coming here. They about to be the new help. You heard me. They are about to be the new help. They got rid of all the people tending the land. All the immigrants that were tending the land are gone. So what they about to do, replace them with the white South African workers. Y'all gonna be working to feed Black folks. As y'all should. Get y'all asses over here and do y'all goddamn job. Y'all think y'all getting away from us. Y'all not. Y'all just gonna be working for us. Come on in the room. See, Trump knew he couldn't get our asses out there. There's no way in hell you're going to get Black folks out there to work no kind of land. But he could say, hey, these South Africans are being suppressed. Their land is being taken away from them. They need to come over here and seek retribution and get y'all asses in the field where the fuck y'all belong. Make sure y'all picking every fucking vegetable and don't miss out on anything. Y'all not getting away from Black folks. Y'all going to be around us a lot more. And unlike the ones in South Africa, we don't give a fuck. You're not going to be able to call us colored. You're going to get your dome rocked. So be careful, tread lightly. And remember, we don't see you as African. We see you as colonizers of an apartheid. Welcome to America.
How racist this new administration truly is. This is some of the most racist shit I've ever heard of. In 1913, South Africa had white supremacists running the country, and they created apartheid, which created segregation and discrimination laws against black South Africans. It was whites only South African businesses, whites only South African movie theaters, whites only South African swimming pools. South Africa was on that racist shit just like America treated black folks. So in 1913, white South Africans took over South Africa with force. White South Africans stole land owned by black South Africans. Fast forward to 2025. Three of Trump's biggest supporters are three of the most richest men on the planet. Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and David Sachs are three billionaires that fully support Trump. Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and David Sachs are all white South Africans who were born in South Africa, white supremacy, and apartheid. Elon Musk is a white South African white supremacist. South Africa now has a black president. This South African president wants equality in South Africa. He wants the racism to stop, and he wants everyone to be treated equally. Trump and Elon Musk heard about this black South African president wanting equality. Trump immediately stopped all funding to South Africa. There are only 7% of white people in South Africa, but those white people own 70% of the land in South Africa because they stole most of that land from black South Africans. The new black South African president put a new law in place to right the wrongs that were done to black South Africans that had land stolen from them. Just like when European settlers stole America from the natives. Because the South African president wants to give back land that white South Africans stole from black South Africans, that's why Trump and his administration are saying white South Africans are being persecuted and done wrong. But white South Africans are not under persecution.
I mean, the facts are there is no systematic prosecution of white Afrikaner farmers. For the Trump administration to take the view that there's somehow systematic persecution, it's actually problematic and troublesome and damning on the way the Trump administration is receiving its information.
How are they being prosecuted when they the ones who stole the land from black South Africans? Black South Africans are the ones who originally owned that land. What's so wrong with doing right and giving black South Africans their land back? But see, this is the thing. South Africa is not even seizing land like Donald Trump is saying they are. It's a lawful process that's handled in the courts of South Africa. If someone stole land from you and your family, wouldn't you want it back? I did my research and I found out how
Alright, class, settle. Okay, everybody open your books. We're going to start on page 32. We're going to start with the Great Sec of 2025. Okay, who can tell me when in 2025 did the Great Sec happen? Ja, Kobus. That's right. May 2025. Very good. All right, and who wants to tell me what was the impetus, like what started the Great Sec? Why did it happen? Ja, Ntokozo. Yes, because the Voetsekkers were not happy with equality and they were trying to victimize themselves, and then they tried to commit treason and it didn't work and they accidentally ended up with refugee status instead. Very good. Take a gold star. That's a very in-depth answer. Good for you. I can see you've been studying. Okay, next. Who wants to tell me why so many people were so angry at the Voetsekkers for the Great Sec of 2025? Yeah, Mark. Listen, we've talked about your language before. I mean, technically, because they took the rest of the world for a... is not incorrect, but see me after class for your language.
Players, I declare, honey, it's a disgrace. So Frumpy Dumping Elon Musk done brought the white South Africans over here to the U.S. as refugees, even though they're turning down every other nation from using that refugee status. Well, now the Frumpy Dump administration is trying to find somewhere for these people to go and have ordered the Episcopal Church to help rehouse these people. Well, baby, the Episcopal Church that came through and said, heck no to the no. We ain't getting involved in that because y'all doing discrimination. We ain't got time.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This was a 4 decades old relationship across many administrations that ended today. Why did the classification of these immigrants as refugees cross a moral line?
Well, the reality is we can't be ourselves in the Episcopal Church and take the step of resettling white Afrikaners from South Africa. Our church has a long commitment to racial justice and reconciliation, and we have historic ties with the Anglican Church of South Africa. Desmond Tutu is a part of, been a partner in this work for us. So we're just not able to take this step. It's not in line with anything that we're about, and it also saddens us to see that other refugees who are being denied entrance to the United States are people, brave people who worked alongside of our military in Iraq and Afghanistan, now face danger, have been in camps for a long time, and aren't being allowed in.
Baby, Bishop Sean Rowe is not here for the racist shenanigans from the Frumpy Dump administration. They said in a letter In light of our church's steadfast commitment to racial justice and reconciliation of our historic ties with the Church of Southern Africa, we are not able to take this step. Accordingly, we have determined that by the end of the federal fiscal year, we will conclude our refugee resettlement grant agreements with the U.S. government. Baby, they not playing. So I don't know how the Frumpy Dump administration plans to resettle these white South Africans, but it won't be with the help of the Episcopal Church. Baby, they said your strong arm is not welcome here. And I'm going to go ahead and keep it a stack with you. I'm here for it all. All right, players, put your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking. These people talking about they were being discriminated. That's not fucking true. They own over 60% of the farmable land there. Make it make sense. This is just Frumpy Dump and Elon Musk with the BS. Y'all put your thoughts in the comments. This is Double D Mo for the Black Accurate News. This shit done backfire as it always does when it comes down to the Frumpy Dump administration.
In case you're wondering whether there's any racism in the Trump administration, consider this wild fact. So you know how they've basically stopped anybody from coming to the United States claiming refugee status? Well, they've decided to put an asterisk on that, and they're going to allow 8,000 South African Afrikaners to come here as refugees. Those are white people, by the way. So why are the white South Africans allowed to be classified as refugees and come to the United States, but a refugee from El Salvador is not allowed to, or a refugee from Panama, or a refugee from Peru? Why aren't they allowed? Well, I'll give you it's one thing. They're brown, those South Africans are white. There is very little evidence that these Afrikaners are being persecuted at home. The government's saying, we're not doing anything. No one else seems to be able to confirm that fact. Yet the Trump administration is going to leapfrog those 8,000 Afrikaners into the United States in front of everybody else. Now, I would assume that all of the Trump supporters who are against all refugees coming to the United States are going to be outraged about this, right? Right?
Well, aren't these just the healthiest looking refugees I've ever seen? The most nourished, the most well kept, the cleanest, most well dressed refugees I've ever seen. I've never seen such stunningly healthy, good looking refugees in my life. Thank God America offered them refuge from South Africa. Thank God. They looked like they could not have even stood another day there. Thank God.
49 white South Africans arrived just outside of Washington today on a U.S. chartered flight, granted citizenship status by the Trump administration. A surprise move because President Trump himself signed an executive order on day one of his presidency, suspending the refugee admissions program, quote, until such a time as the further entry into the United States of refugees aligns with the interests of the United States. So what makes these Afrikaners different from other refugees from war-torn countries like Sudan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, or Afghanistan, who have been waiting for years to get into the country?
Well, it's a big question, and it's a key question here. We know that the Trump administration suspended the refugee settlement program, saying that essentially we didn't have space for this. I want to read to you part of what their reasoning was at the time. They said the United States lacks the ability to absorb large numbers of migrants, and in particular refugees, into its communities. They went on to say that this really ensures the appropriate assimilation of refugees. But I've been talking to folks, and they say really this is about race, they think, especially some South Africans who fled after the apartheid and the racist regime there. I talked to some people who told me that they feel like this is the president essentially taking the side of people who are white over black refugees, including in places like Sudan and the Congo.
Hey, lovely people, and particularly a quick word to my American friends who might be tempted to believe what Donald Trump is saying about South Africa, my home country, where I happen to be right now. Him and Elon Musk are racist twats who have no fucking idea what they're talking about. Because what they're doing is taking the word of a fringe racist group called Afriforum and other disaffected whites, disgruntled by the end of apartheid, feeling hard done by, and much like the Israelis, victimizing themselves when they are not victims at all, bitching about how land redistribution is racist against whites. These are such ignorant provocateurs, and it's going to backfire on them. South Africans' majority, the black majority, and it's a multiracial, multi-tribal society now, only own a tiny proportion of the land versus the size of their population. And while white South Africans make up 7% of the population, more or less, they own about 70% of the decent land. And so the redistribution of land is to address past inequities, and the vast majority of South Africans agree and understand why that's happening and that it's a good thing. It's also under a very strict mechanism. Now, not everyone agrees, of course, with the mechanism, but the principle is what racists like Musk and Trump are railing against here on behalf of a bunch of assholes who equate equality with oppression, because for so many years, decades and decades of the apartheid era, they were the oppressor. And as we know, whenever the oppressor looks at something like equality, it suddenly becomes oppression of him. So fuck Elon Musk, fuck these idiots from Afriforum. You probably know nothing about them, but this is a bunch of, the equivalent of your kind of Proud Boys hanging on to some past that never actually existed. And a past in which the vast majority of people in this country were oppressed, suppressed, and treated much like, fortunately not quite as badly as the Israelis treat the Palestinians. So this whole railing against South Africa, I'm going to add one more point. South Africans on the whole, all of us, white, black, Indian, colored, which is not a term, is a specific term for those of you who might get offended by that, a specific racial group. We are very, very resilient people. As a country, we have gone through a great deal, both in terms of the early part and then the transition from the apartheid era to genuine multicultural democracy. And whatever Trump throws at us, we can handle. We can handle it because we've been through far, far worse in our history. And my hope is that South Africans all turn around with one voice and tell Trump to fuck off with his sanctions and his fucking withdrawal of aid and his tariffs and all of this stuff, because we can live through it. What I'm not sure about is whether Americans can, because for the most part, all the stuff that Vivek Ramaswamy said recently about Americans being soft, not prepared to put in the hard graft, and all this stuff, I tell you, for the experience of most foreigners is true. And it's not true of every American I know. Some of them are the most hardworking, wonderful people in the world. But as a general principle, South Africans are far more resilient and able to withstand this kind of bullshit authoritarian pressure than any American population. So to my fellow South Africans, let's stick this out. Let's stick up the middle finger to Trump and particularly to Elon Musk, because we know from his background that he left South Africa in the apartheid era and retains the racist bullshit that's motivating these people like Creel. And now that I'm in South Africa, I'm seeing their awesome, ridiculous tweets. Fuck those guys as well. They're the past. Most of us are the future, and it's a beautiful future.
When I first laid eyes on these South Africans coming over here, I said, wait a minute. I ain't never seen an obese South African before. I mean, I ain't never, anyway. I'm serious. What? When white America get through with these refugees, I hope somebody tell these people that America gonna turn them every which way but loose. These people going back home, y'all. They will not stay here long term. America is ghetto as fuck, and they don't care. Just looking out of the window. They get through with these people, this man gonna be skin and bones, bones and skin.
They only want white people here. Because when we think about refugees who need immediate resettlement, expedited screenings, we usually think about people who are fleeing extreme violence, persecution, famine, war in places like South Sudan, Myanmar, the Congo, not white Afrikaners. See that chartered plane the Trump administration is sending? It's not going to collect refugees that have been sitting in resettlement camps for years, fully vetted, waiting to come to the United States to escape violence. No, it's going to South Africa to collect white people who claim they're being discriminated against. Why would they be getting discriminated against? Probably because they spent generations instituting legalized forms of racial segregation and discrimination called apartheid, aka Stephen Miller's wet dream. See, while the rest of the world after World War II saw that maybe racial discrimination not such a hot idea and favored more policies of integration and away from colonization, Afrikaners doubled down on that shit and instituted apartheid. Although it ended over 30 years ago, the social and economic legacies of apartheid continue today. South Africa is the most unequal country in the entire world, according to the World Bank, with white South Africans earning over 12 times what black South Africans do. But don't worry, we're going to make sure that the white Afrikaners who instituted generations of discrimination and segregation against black people get everything they need to get started here in the United States in their new life.
Call out Donald Trump for being a huge hypocrite. Imagine that, Donald Trump a hypocrite. Donald Trump, I thought we weren't accepting any refugees from any part of the world. Donald Trump, how is it possible that you gave an order for the State Department to make arrangements to send a plane to South Africa to pick up South African refugees? And Donald, they all look pretty pasty. They all look, you know, definitely of that pasty color. I got to be careful when we talk about colors. And, I mean, I know y'all may not remember, but Crayola used to have that 64 box of every color in the world. And there's only one color in that Crayola box of 64 that Donald Trump seems to like. And any other color in that box of crayons, Donald Trump doesn't seem to like. My Latinos, I want to understand this. Now, he's accepting refugees from South Africa. And who else is from South Africa? Elon Musk? Interesting. But any other refugees from Central America, South America, Latin America, any other Caribbean country, Ukraine, you name it, especially those from south of the border, we're trying to deport them and send them out, reject their TPS, cancel their TPS as fast as we can, even when they're law-abiding people. But South Africans, especially those really pasty ones, that one color in the crayon box of 64. There's one color Donald Trump doesn't seem to have a problem with using that color in that crayon box. You know which one it is. What do you think? What is Donald Trump's favorite Crayola color? We all know what it is. Look at the South Africans. You'll know the answer. So my Latinos, y'all going to keep up this voting in 2026 and 2028? Yep. You go FAFO too. Yep. What do y'all think? Love to hear from my Democrats, my MAGAs, my crazies, my cuckoos, my burned out light bulbs, and all my Latinos, all of y'all that voted for Trump. You see how he does you and your people. You weren't in that box of Crayola crayons that he picked out. He just picked out one color that he liked for his favorite color to color with. Kind of the color of paper, most paper. And you didn't fit that, I guess. Love to hear from everybody.
For anyone who has any problems with refugees, I do not want to hear you talk about the South African white refugees and be like, they're coming here legally, it's fine, because their own government even says that they are not vetted. Well, Donald Trump says that they are completely vetted. That's 100% untrue, according to the South African government. They also said that the people that claim that they are being genocided are actually pro-apartheid. and that's why they're moving to the United States. And they're saying straight up that it is a move for political advantage. The South African government also came out and said that it's really ironic that Trump is allowing the most economically privileged people from around the world to enter the United States while denying the most vulnerable people who are trying to immigrate to the United States. Like, let's be clear here. These people are becoming refugees to the United States specifically because they are upset that people are upset in South Africa, that they are pro-apartheid. And yet Donald Trump will not accept any refugees that are actually coming here for detrimental circumstances. Again, it's just racism. That's all it is.
So South Africa's own government is even coming out today and telling Trump, if you want to take on these refugees, that's on you. But just so you know, none of them have been properly vetted. A lot of them have been involved in protests that are pro-apartheid. And on top of that, these guys are actually claiming that they're being persecuted for being white. I don't know if you know a whole lot about South Africa, where Elon Musk is from, but the apartheid just ended not very long ago. If you don't know what that is, it was mass segregation. South Africa's government also came out and added that it's really hard to be a refugee of persecution when you're amongst the most highest earners and highly educated in the entire region. But in my personal opinion, this kind of gives me remnants of Operation Paperclip, what the US government did after World War II. They got a little over 1,500 German scientists and high-ranking officials from the military, Hitler's military, to come over to the United States so they could learn from them. Now, I'm no mathematician, but 2 + 2 = 4. What Trump's been doing here in the United States as far as deporting individuals, they've all been brown people. And now he's more than willing to bring thousands of white people claiming they've been persecuted by brown people without even fully vetting them. The answer to this simple mathematical equation is Trump wants more white people in the United States. If it ain't white, it ain't right. And that's literally Trump's mindset. You can't prove me otherwise.
To all of the South African Afrikaans refugees that are coming to America soon, I just want to let you know, as someone whose wife is Afrikaans, who's been to South Africa multiple times, you're gonna have a bad time. There's no white genocide happening in South Africa. You have crime that's happening as a result of racism-fueled generational economic inequality, the same thing that's happening in America. We're just a couple decades ahead of you on the unchecked capitalism timeline. But I have good news for you. You don't have to worry about the cheap exploited labor rising up against you anymore, because now that you're in America, you'll get to be the cheap exploited labor. If you were middle class or upper middle class in South Africa and you come to America, you're poor now. Like, really poor. You're not gonna have maids and gardeners and personal servants that you can pay $15 a day for. Now you get to be the cheap labor. But by all means, please come to America and experience the American capitalism that Elon Musk's been raving about to you. You'll probably love it. You know, what do I know? There's probably very little chance that you'll end up going back to South Africa in a year or two after realizing how overpriced and fucked up America is. I wouldn't even worry about that as a possibility. And if you think I'm being mean to these people because I think they're a bunch of racist, bigoted colonizers who wish they could go back to apartheid South Africa, it's just because I do think that. But to them, I say, welcome to the American dream. Please let me know when you've woken up from it.
Sending private planes to pick up 8,000 Caucasian South African refugees when we're kicking people out that are in the middle of their immigration proceedings here in the U.S. now. Literally having people show up for their final steps of their immigration process and having them arrested, detained, and deported. Doesn't make any sense to me unless...
These are the first group of white South Africans who've been fast-tracked into refugee status. The Trump administration made a big thing about cracking down on immigration and suspending the refugee resettlement program. So questions are being asked on why has such an exception been made for this group of people?
White farmers are being
brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa.
Billionaire Elon Musk grew up in apartheid South Africa. He's one of Donald Trump's closest advisors, and he claims that there is a genocide of white people happening. South Africa's foreign minister says that there has been no land confiscation, and Donald Trump's claims that murders are happening in large numbers is not backed by any police data.
Why are the police quitting now? You should all quit. Because if your presence there thinks that you're going to come into the black community and do what you've been doing, you better quit. The jump out boys better stay in the white community. Don't come where we live and jump out, because you may never get back in. Real talk now. We can't take it no more. We won't take it anymore.
Hello, my people. Lady Rosie here. How y'all doing? All my new subscribers are welcome, and my returning subscribers, y'all know I love you. Guys, today we are a little bit off topic, but we need to talk about this thing here. This racism isn't just looking at our Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex, but it's everywhere. It's just racist towards the minorities from the administration of the United States of America. Remember a few minutes ago, this guy came out. The current guy who is in Oval Office said he was shutting down the resettlement for refugees. Remember that? Yeah, he was shutting down the resettlement. Look at these cars. Look at these cars. Look at these cars, and I'm driving like a... What is going on, people? Everybody going to work. What the hell? I mean, what the actual hell? Damn! So everybody's actually shocked out here. The resettlement for the refugees actually opened for the South African white refugees, white racist settlers. Can you imagine these people? Did you all hear what the President Ramaphosa said, Syria? Yeah, he said these people actually wanted to go back to apartheid time. They do not want to respect the Constitution of South Africa. You know, if we're respecting the Constitution of your damn countries, y'all guys need to respect our motherland's Constitution as well. That's how it works. And you gotta respect the Constitution of the country where you live. Damn it, is it different sets of rules when it comes to us, and when it comes to you is different? Oh, baby, let's see how that's gonna go here in America. Let's see who's gonna create those jobs for y'all guys. Because we know these people, these Elon Musk people, those people got educated in their homes. These people built ateliers. They built where to teach them kids in their own schools that nobody recognizes around the world. They have their own different everything system, because you know what? The South African government has English system that everybody follows. But these settlers, these racist kids, the descendants of these racist people who do not want to go back to a normal treatment of black people. They want to keep the colonial time and the colonial mind the way their forefathers left them. And you know where these people live? They have monument of those people who tortured our people in South Africa. And they're proud about it. They are super proud to see those colonial terrible people. We have the Confederate flag and all those terrible people burnt from the United States of America. Baby, that's not what's happening in that country. They have those people's statues every single corner around that South Africa, that the black people have to watch. These people mistreated you people, but you ain't got no choice but to just be around them and still look at those monuments and not say a thing on your own soil. I thought that was different, but not all those South Africans, white people are racist. Y'all saw them out here. They came out and called their brothers and sisters. They told y'all guys those people are not suffering in South Africa. They actually living like they live in heavens. Those people have maids, and those maids are black people cleaning their houses right now, raising their children like back in the slavery time. And right now, they are in the United States of America. Welcome to the United States of America! Woo! Guys, I can't wait. I can't wait. And guess what? Apparently, these you guys, the old dude told you guys these people were farmers, right? It turned out all these obese people who came through are not even farmers. They are just rich people, racist people who want to go back to those slavery time, those colonial time. They do not want to respect the law of the land. That's what's going on. These are the people who got sent here, but guess what? You ain't gonna be messing up with the African Americans here. And you know, because these people in the White House thought you guys were farmers, maybe you guys gonna take all the Mexican people's job right now. Because I bet you for sure, these people of mine, my DNA of people here, these African American, they ain't gonna go do that for y'all guys. It's good for y'all guys. Walk up, come on, and keep that farming going. Do it really good. Y'all gonna be doing good job right now. You are gonna be the fruit pickers from those farms. So they took you in those areas where they actually do farm. Did they say South Carolina, North Carolina? Ooh, baby! And the law in those places you can't really mess up. The way you gotta follow the law, even the traffic law in that place there is really severe. I heard they're gonna take some of them in Texas too. Oh, baby! This is the beginning of life. Can you imagine you are 60 years old and you're gonna start all over again? And you ain't got nobody, all those black people who are sitting down there washing your asses, and nobody are gonna do it in the United States of America, where you gonna call somebody to work in your house for 1 hour, you pay them $18, baby! That's minimum wage in Colorado right now, and I believe that's nationwide. And let's see how much money y'all guys gonna kind of use, because guess what? Life is damn cheap in Africa, and God created the land of Africa. I tell you, it's warm there. And these people, they left everything that they knew behind and came here, started from zero, and they called this priest who actually works with the resettlement agencies to give homes for people, to help people integrate in the American society. And that priest is like, I ain't gonna do that, because we need racial justice, and that's why we do fight in this church. And this priest is as white as he can get, exactly like those people. And you know what? That priest is like, we ain't gonna do that. We ain't gonna help y'all guys with that. That's y'all guys' business. We ain't gonna help no damn resettlement. Y'all say y'all ain't gonna bring no black people from the Congo, where they really have an actual war. You say you are gonna bring people from Sudan, where they actually have war. And who is financing those wars there? Baby, y'all need to do your research. Y'all need to do your research, my brothers and sisters. And I saw my white brothers and my white sisters came out here. They are not playing with y'all. They are not playing. They're not playing. And I'm loving this one here for y'all guys. Yeah, so something did happen. Somebody did scratch somebody's booty, and yeah, looking good. And this guy, he was trying to drive this other corner here, thinking that he was gonna be able to kind of cross me. It ain't gonna happen, because you know this car of mine, this is called FJ Cruiser. That car is so fat, and you know I'll be feeding that girl real good. She good. She FJ Cruiser, that's her name. Her name kind of sounds like a Tom Cruise, but yeah, that's my car. You know this baby, she's so fat that you try to sneak by there, she ain't gonna let you go. So yeah, we all saw the South African white brothers and sisters came out here flooding TikTok, calling their brothers out, and the president of South Africa came out here, told y'all guys the truth, so y'all guys know nobody's prosecuting these people. This is not black culture. These people did lots of stuff to our race out here. We never for 1 minute sat down there persecuted any race on this planet. We are the humblest mouthful that you can have around this planet. So shut down and shut your damn mouth and stop lying about my people of South Africa. God bless y'all. I'm gonna talk to you again later because this traffic just is terrible. It's like a bad news out here. Bye.